Yeah, for sure. That's all right. Testing. Webinar testing. Ha! Let's see. Sounds good. Looking good. Okay. Got just pulled up. Not too crazy tonight. Super duper. All right, all is good. This. Yeah. All looking good. All right, so we're just getting ready here, waiting for Dr. Mike. He should be on any minute now. Where's my phone, just in case? Das Handy. Yes, RP died app. Jesus, leave me alone. Ooh. Oh. Excuse me.
Yo.
Oh, hey there. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Surprisingly good. Thought I was going to be wrecked today, but All right. I'm all right.
That's really good. I was really tired yesterday. I got home at like 4 or 5. I went shopping and then trained and then did
Oh
some
boy.
work and then passed out for a long time. And then today I'm pretty good, but still a bit tired. So I'm going to shut it down after the webinar and try to get some relaxation going.
Gotcha. I've always found that like if when you're coming back from like a really long flight and it's not super late traveling, God damn it, training is always really, really good because it really just puts you out. Like if you weren't ready to go to bed, now you're ready.
Kind of like training has a way, and this has actually been shown, I think, in the psychological literature. Training has a way of resetting your psychology back to just a baseline.
Hey, Mike, real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Could you adjust your microphone? You were sounding great, and then all of a sudden it was like...
Can you hear me now?
It's like kind of poopy. Is it plugged in all the way?
How about now?
Ah, my man. Much better.
Better. Okay. Yeah, training has a way of just resetting you psychologically, I think, to just kind of be, back to baseline where if you feel weird or thrown off, because it's one of the things is endorphins and all these other things that happen. But another thing is like, it gets you into a very familiar psychological state. Like towards the end of training, you're like, I know this well. And then you sort of simultaneously being devoid of energy, more parasympathetic, more in an endorphin state, and in that familiarity state, you kind of tend to be like, okay, yeah, I know where I am. I can work from here. Like I've done it so many times. It's like I always tell people, like, no matter where I am in the world, any gym is home. You get in there and you grab a barbell and you're like, it's all good. I used to, like when I would travel places, I used to not be a little stressed, I guess. It's just, you ever feel like out of place, especially traveling as a teenager? You felt like just like, this is a foreign place and everyone here hates me or something. And then as soon as I would train, I would be like, I'm home. It doesn't matter. Like it's all my people here.
My gym is actually in my home, so it's even better. I get that sensation times 2.
Damn.
All right. Well, tonight doesn't look too bad. You want to get into it here?
Let's get into it and get this done. So, Frederick Magnuson says, "Hey docs, hope you are doing well. I really enjoy listening to these webinars. It's a great pleasure. Oh, by the way, James's turn to feel appreciated. So fuck you, Mike.
Yes.
Just kidding. No, please don't hurt me when we meet someday. Oh, that's fine. I like it. I like it.
Yes.
Stats: 25 years old, 90 kilograms, AM weight. I'm coming out of a cut. It didn't go super well, but I'm kind of happy with how I look. So now I'm letting my calories slowly creep up to avoid unnecessary fat gain. I would estimate my body fat percent to be around 15-ish. I've got veins in my arms, blurry chest veins, blurry upper abs, visible lower ab vein. But there's no doubt about it. I store a lot of fat in my lower abs and love handles. I've lived for 6 years and I've been using your templates for the last 2 years or so. I think I'm just a very serious recreational bodybuilder. Like maybe I'll hit the stage in my 30s or so. I don't know, but I'm always using full ROM, controlling fatigue, using flexible dieting approach, etc. I'm not using the RP diet because I think it would be fucked up to use because I live in Denmark, so all these measures like 1 cup of bullshit I don't really understand. So I'm sorry, maybe just me, no offense. None taken. The book is not just in ounces, it's also in grams, and also the app has a toggle to go from imperial to macro.
I was going to say the app does that for you, so there you go.
But if you know macros and shit, you're probably fine. All right, now to the point. I'm using the 5-day full body male physique template, the new one, and I want to bring up my arms / side and rear delt. How would you go about this? I would purchase the shoulders and arms.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we have a template for that.
But let's get going because I do have another piece of advice. Let's say Monday I train chest, back, rear delts, then arms or arms first, or switch my chest and back exercises to something that triceps and biceps assists more in, and then maybe train arms Tuesday before legs. Also, my arms recover pretty fast, so let's say I train them 4 times a week. Just an example, how many exercises can I use? Well, so the male physique template restricts you in the number of exercises you can use, so I'm not going to give advice on that. What about rep ranges different days? The male physique template also restricts you on that. I hope you can give great answers. A great answer. Thanks in advance. I love that. It's very European style.
Yeah.
I hope you can give me exactly what I want. So I will say this: if you want to ghetto modify the male physique template full body, what I would say is when you pick your exercises, pick a lot of arm emphasized back movements, like close grip back stuff, close grip pushing stuff. And also if you just what you want to do is manually alter the set numbers to put more sets of arm exercises and fewer sets of chest and back, potentially even fewer sets of legs. And in addition to that, you can, wherever the arm exercises appear in the program, like let's say they're third, fourth, and fifth, and then the first and second are chest and back, you can flip those. I mean, you won't be able to flip them in the Excel sheet because that'll fuck everything up, but maybe you can make a note to do the arms first and then do the other stuff second and third. But that has all been done for you in the chest, the shoulders and arms emphasis one, so you can buy that one. But if you don't want to buy it, those are my tips. James?
Yeah, I would say this is one of those things where if you're like trying to use the template, you're going to have to do a heavily modified version. So what I would actually suggest that you do, since you have all these great RP Plus resources, wink, wink, just make your own program and use the template as kind of like a blueprint that you can build off of. And then you already know, like if you've listened to us talk before, what are we going to say? Put everything else at MEV, maybe some of your upper body, MV, maybe some of your upper body stuff at MEV, like the arm heavy ones, like Mike already suggested. And ultimately, you're going to push the volume and the frequency on the arm training as high as you can go. The full body template doesn't do that. So you're just, I mean, like trying to force it into there is going to be difficult. I would say take the bones of that, make your own program using those suggestions.
Yeah, great idea. All right, Martin McHugh. How would you say that, James?
McHugh.
Hey guys, thanks for all your amazing content. Looking forward to seeing you again at the UEBC 2019 in Melbourne. Hey, listen, you better come up to us and tell us you're RP Plus, because we got a special RP Plus handshake where James and I physically beat you half to death.
By the way, I was super thrilled when we were in London. A bunch of RP Plus people came up and said hi and introduced themselves, which I always appreciate. I mean, I feel cheated when I find out on RP Plus when somebody's like, "Hey, I saw you in whatever," and we're like, "What?" You bet. So I think at least 2 or 3 people came up and said hi.
Yep.
Which was sweet.
Yep, it was awesome. We always love meeting our RP Plusers. All right. For the last 2 years, I've been battling a chronic injury of hamstring tendinopathy. I had a pretty good run around December with JTS AI. Sweet. And hit 160 times 10 deadlift, 150 times 10 squats. Since then, it's been aggravated, and I haven't touched those weights even for a single. I've been working with some physical therapists here in Adelaide, but haven't been too successful. I keep getting to a point similar to now when things seem to go downhill and it gets re-aggravated. Number one, what are you guys' key points when dealing with chronic injuries? James?
Yeah, so I hate doing this because I know you guys are going to roll your eyes, but first things first, like we are not injury specialists, so take whatever we say with a grain of salt, and if you get better advice from a PT or an AT, listen to them first. But that being said, key points when dealing with chronic injuries. The first one is progress on the volume and just general training load very, very slowly. If you want to keep re-injuring yourself in the same spot over and over again, take time off and then go back to training at MRV right away, right? What you have to readjust is all of your volume landmarks for that particular body part or the joint or whatever. You always have to start painfully slow and progress painfully slow until you are having problem-free, pain-free training for more than 6 months in a row. And then you can start even entertaining the thought of adding more sets or more intensity. The thing with chronic injuries, and Quinn says this more eloquently than I can, the problem is whenever you apply a load, whether that's a combination of volume and intensity to the tissue that exceeds its capacity, that's when it goes, right? And this is what's going to keep happening over and over again. So just make sure you always take the progression and the starting volumes very slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Number two, can I front squat? And I can front squat and do hip thrusts with no issues. Should I just run a hypertrophy block or two with these as the main focus till all symptoms gone and then try deadlift and squat again? Taking James's advice of when you try them again, you need to thread them in super light, super easy, and super slowly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and you might even just take squats out entirely. You might even just do like leg presses for a little while until you really lock down what's exacerbating it, because it might just be like any squatting movement might keep aggravating it. I don't know. That might not be true either, but just an idea.
But whatever doesn't aggravate it, for sure, do that stuff and do it for a long time, and then slowly bring in your rehab volumes and intensities of the movements, then high rep, very low intensity, low volume versions of those movements, then slowly open up more and more and more into more voluminous and eventually more intense. And I said that on purpose in that sequence. First, you reintroduce the volume with really light weights, then you start creeping the weights in. And then number 3, actually I have a pretty fast answer to this. This is what a week looks like at the moment. Do you see any glaring issues? Yes, day 1 causes pain. That's a fucking glaring issue. Martin, god damn it. So yeah, tons of glaring issues. Stop doing all the shit that hurts you. And fundamentally, it looks like a fine program for someone who does not have pain. But everything is minimal to no pain. It should be no pain. And he says squats aggravate hips, but the rest doesn't seem to. Hamstring pull sensation the next day. It's all bad, all real bad. Take everything out that causes you any kind of discomfort. Put everything in that does not. And then months later, start to thread in very light, very isolation versions, very low volume versions of the things that used to aggravate you and slowly build back up. I have a presentation on Quinn Hennock's webinar there, Clinical Athlete, in which I describe how to reintroduce lifts that you were once hurt by, and it's really long. You can search for it. I have a version on Facebook too. Like coming back after injury, Israel, just search that on Facebook. It should come up. It's basically all about, like, if you really want years ahead of injury-free training, you got to come back in a way that takes, like James said, 6 months. It's not going to happen in 3 weeks.
Also, real quick, so I'm a little confused looking at this program because I thought you said that squats and deadlifts are what's irritating it, and sure enough, I see squats and deadlifts, and you're reporting pain, and on top of that, some of these squats, you're doing like sets of 5, 6. You know, like, dude, if you're dealing with a hamstring injury, I would recommend not really going below 8 to 10 reps for any reason. Like, there's no good justification for doing true strength training at this point. When you're dealing with the hamstring injury, I would work around it by using lighter loads, higher reps as much as possible.
100%. Number 4, I find it hard to get pumped up for upper body in comparison to legs. The bench, pull-ups, bent rows just don't seem to psych me up like deadlifts and squats. Do you have any tips for making upper body days more intense / motivate for them? I have no such tips whatsoever. Gee, man, you know, if it's something you don't like doing, don't do it. And if you think like you need to do it, then treat it more like I have to do this. And slowly you should cultivate an enjoyment, a welcoming of PRs, and an excitement. Allow yourself to experience happiness with the lifts and really invest time into programming upper body and start to really try to value the fact that you're getting stronger and a very good technique. And eventually you'll really start to like it. And if you don't, fuck it. I got nothing else, James.
I'm lamenting giving this suggestion because it's kind of the opposite of what I said when we were in London. It's not the opposite, but it goes against what I said. You might consider adding some intensity techniques like some myo reps or some supersets that might just spice things up a little bit. I know, like, it's pretty hard to do like the dumbbell fly to dumbbell bench press superset without getting pretty fucking pumped, or the old skull crusher to close grip bench press kind of thing. I wouldn't recommend doing those out of just boredom, but they are something that can add a little spice. Like myo reps is something you can do for like back training if your regular straight sets is getting really boring. I wouldn't do it for like rows, but maybe for pull-ups kind of stuff. But other than that, it's very difficult. Like, if you don't care, like, we can't make you care. You know, you sometimes just got to do it and know that it's boring, and you just do it, and that's it, and get it over with.
Fair warning, Martin, none of that metabolite stuff's going to make you strong, and it seems like you want to be really strong, so that's going to go cross current, which is why James said it contradicts what he said in London. So, all right, Philip with 3 L's and no I's. I'm just kidding. That'd be sweet.
It does have 2 P's at the end.
That is true. It's like PHLLLPP. That'd be so sweet. Philip Deezer. That's all. It was very close to Diesel.
Yes.
I just joined RP Plus and have a question. What the fuck? You don't ask questions on RP Plus. We ask the questions around here.
His question is like very fundamental. It's awesome.
It's great. The last webinar with Mike and James was 7:25 p.m., but I am from Germany. What time zone is shown on the website? Mine or their time zone? Probably ours.
It's usually set in Eastern time. So even when I'm populating, I say the webinar guy scolded me for saying that. When I'm, creating the webinar on the back end, I'm doing it in California, and when I am making it, it shows up in Eastern time. So I actually have to
Eastern United States, New York City time.
New York City time. That's the reference point.
Yeah. And then he says, "Hey, Mike and James, I want to enter the 20 plus sets for back in the next 2 weeks for my next massing meso. How would you split up volume? And should I start with 2 times frequency or and get to 3 times because of session MRV of roughly 10 sets? Maybe some quick example split would be cool. Well, so back, you can do 2 times frequency, but if you really want to, so the 20 plus sets is an interesting idea, but what you really are trying to say is I want to do a higher volume split, or I want to split my training up in such a way that I get a higher volume in. Probably the best way to do that is to increase frequency. So I would say start your next mesocycle with 3 times a week back training, and start at 3 or 4 sets per session, or maybe 3 to 5 sets per session of back, and auto regulate your way to see if you even can do 20 plus sets. And if you can, a 3 times a week split will take you there. My recommendation is to do one of the days as a very heavy vertical pulling day and a lighter rowing day, maybe 5 to 10 rep sets on vertical pulling. That means weighted pull-ups and body weight pull-ups usually, and then 10 to 20 rowing. And then most of the volume that day, it could be like 3 or 4 sets of vertical pulling, 1 or 2 sets of rowing. And the next day, 2 days later or whatever, could be a lot of rowing in the 5 to 10 rep range and vertical pulling in the 10 to 20, right? Same idea, just flipped. And then your last day of the week could be a combination of 10 to 20 rep range and maybe 1 or 2 sets in the 20 to 30 rep range of an even split of rowing and vertical pulling, but higher reps, maybe more machine movements, more peak contractions, a focus on the stretch, that kind of thing. And that, I think, rounds out a pretty decent start to burn. James, anything else you want to throw in there?
Yeah, that was really good. I've actually been experimenting with this for a while now in my last several even macros of training. And I was experimenting with increasing my pulling volume, particularly for my lats, to 4 times per week. And actually what I found was I could do 4 times per week pretty well. And I was actually seeing some good progress. But I was taking a big hit on my posterior chain day. No matter if I did, rowing heavy or lat heavy, either one, I could definitely start to notice that it was really starting to creep into my posterior chain heavy days. So I backed it off this last time to 3 times per week, and still seeing positive change without the interference. So
nice.
Just something to watch out for.
Training back, if you're more than reasonably strong like you are, if you're pretty strong, training back more than 3 times a week is just, I think it's at that point just trying to stuff in. It's like stuffing in ingredients to like a witch's brew into a pot that's just not big enough. You know what I mean? It's like you're just trying to make it fit at that point. So I think 3 times a week back training for someone who's pretty strong is really right on at the top end.
For sure.
All right. Daniel Hacker says, are small deficit RDLs a complete waste of time as a hinging variant for hamstrings? No. If an individual gets, I think he has more an addendum to this. If an individual gets plenty sore with regular RDLs to the floor, 45-pound plate, fully paused on the ground between each rep with a slow controlled negative, are they asking for trouble or just wasting their time if they switch to regular RDL for 1 to 2 inch deficit RDL when normal RDL gets stale? Can you think of any cases where a deficit RDL would actually be a good idea / when it would be appropriate for someone to do it? I think that if your lower back can stay tight and you still get tons of hamstring stimulus, RDL is a great tool to use for variation. James, correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. The only thing that you have to watch out for with the deficit RDL is that even people with really good technique and good habits, they will start to try and reach with their arms to create extra deficit. So you have to be very mindful. Too. Yeah, and so just keep in mind, like even if you're flexible enough, the tendency will be to start reaching your arms down. So you have to just be mindful of that. But I think it's a great movement, and it provides, I would say, comparable growth because you gain a little bit of range, maybe a little bit less load, probably very comparable growth to doing the regular one. So,
so one of these, really quick, just to address this. Oh, sorry, hold on a sec. What's up, honey? Yeah, you can use just a neoprene one. Yeah. Sorry. Just to address something that I think is one of these little gems that people seem to like as far as James and Mike wisdom here. James, correct me if I'm wrong. which, by the way, could sum up our relationship over the last 10 years, or however
What?
long we've been
No,
friends.
you're the one with all the bright ideas. I'm like the stupid one.
No, you're the correct me if I'm wrong guy, because half my bright ideas are dog shit, and you're like, that's wrong. I'm like, right, okay, step back to the lab again. I got mom's spaghetti all over my sweater, or whatever, James, whatever that motherfucker says.
Well, at
Your
least you
favorite
have
song.
creative new ideas. I'm just a stagnant old bastard.
Hey, man. Well, there's your curmudgeony fuck who makes sure everything's correct. So here's the deal. I think that there is this sort of idea that maybe by our training preference and style, you and I made pretty popular, which is to really dope out the end limit range of motion on a bunch of stuff. But what as you just said, there's a trade-off to that range, that stretch under tension versus the absolute load being used, to where I'll say this: if the tension is, if the stretch is reasonably full range of motion and doesn't cut off any essential full ranges of motion. For example, if you don't stop your rows before protracting your scapula, because muscles do that, by the way, and muscles have to retract them, right? So as long as you're rowing down to where you protract your scapula and you're rowing up to retract them, as long as your RDL is a tight lower back and you feel your hamstrings, lots of tension, and you're getting DOMs right in your hamstrings, I don't think James or I would ever make the argument that like there's something fundamentally wrong between a very, very full ROM, exaggerated ROM, versus just pretty decent ROM. I think all that's just about the same, and it's just a trade-off of intensity to range of motion. So for example, like if I see a video of a bodybuilder, am I still coming through, James? Because it's got some weird audio on this end.
You are. It might be because I muted my microphone.
Oh, I got you.
I was snacking.
Okay, cool. Sorry, no worries. So basically, like if I see a video of a bodybuilder on Instagram and he's not touching the incline dumbbells to his shoulders, but he's coming down like, below his fucking ears, and maybe he's not locking out, but he's going up to here, I don't have a problem with that. I think there are some tracking benefits to touching and locking out fully. But from a functional perspective and effectiveness perspective, like when people like post a video of a squat and it's not quite ass to grass, but it's convincingly below parallel and everything's good. For the love of God, it's a fucking good squat. It's gonna grow you. I'm not gonna fucking tie my horse to the fucking outcome of like, oh no, he'd be much better if he did Super Israel Hoffman ROM. Like fuck all that shit. Like we love it mostly for tracking purposes because it feels good, because we have to use less weight and it's probably a little bit safer in the long term. But as
and
far
we can
as
ride the ego high horse on it too. Like, well,
exactly.
ours is the hardest.
Technically speaking, that's not for squat. But like you, James, was what I'm saying pretty right on? Like as far as like, look, this is a fundamentally good movement. We don't give a shit if it's like an inch or here or there. Like who cares?
100% agree. And I know we actually talked about this on a webinar. I fuck if I know when. But for most exercises, you're kind of looking at basically more or less a bell-shaped curve and relating to how much load and velocity. So it's only the extreme ends of one or the other that you really have to fuss about it. So bad example, rack pulls, super high rack pull with tons of weight, probably not going to grow as much as some other things. Or like doing a 6-inch deficit, stiff-legged deadlift where you have to round over.
People do that all the fucking time. There was like a deficit splurge on Instagram in like 2016 where everyone was doing deficits from like way too deep of it. It's like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, Mike. And for the most part, like if you're really perseverating over like this exercise versus that exercise and it's like a marginal difference, it's not even worth fussing over. Just go for it.
At that point, it's just variation. It's like, I posted another Smith machine squat video today, and of course a bunch of people are like, why Smith, Dr. Mike? And it's like, and a bunch of my followers, thank God bless their goddamn hearts, are like, it doesn't fucking matter. It's just variation, which confuses a lot of people even more because they don't know what variation is. And like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do I mean? If you don't know what variation is, why are you even asking questions? Go read a book.
It's so amazing because you just keep getting new followers. And so like, we feel like we beat this to death. And it's always just in like, everyone who's followed you for more than a year has seen you Smith machine squat at least once. You know what I mean?
At least 80 times. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, it's funny when it keeps coming up where it's just like an eye roll kind of thing.
Yeah. The funnier ones are the ones who just judge you right off the back. Like, Smith, really? And then a bunch of people jump down their throats like, you're a fucking retarded asshole who has no idea what you're talking about. Like, oh, sorry.
The thing too is like, a lot of the arguments they use are for like sporting arguments. Whereas bodybuilding is a different, it's still a sport, although we kind of snub it a little bit, but it's its own little moon in the solar system of sports. So
Yeah. I love it. One guy was like, "Oh, that doesn't maximize power," and I like to be catty every now and again just for fun on Instagram. So I'm like, I just ask questions. I'm like, I'm trying to maximize power, and the guy's like, "Are you?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, okay." Like, where did
God,
you make that assumption?
what a
That's
dummy.
awesome. That's so amazing.
You
All
can
right.
skip the next one on the book. Daniel messaged me directly.
Okay, sweet. Perfect. I figured that's actually really good for you. Okay. How important is actual weight training exercise variant for an athlete competing in a non-strength sport like basketball, football, soccer, or tennis as compared to just picking a certain one and progressing in strength under reps of the movement? So long as the athlete is training in the necessary movement planes, you could even say patterns. Yep. Vertical, horizontal, push and pull, squat pattern, and a hinge. Doesn't matter what the exercise happens to be. I mean, outside of concerns of like biomechanical concordance and injury risk. So, for example, like you might not want to rack a ton of cleans with like basketball players because their shoulders might be shit anyway, and they're all fucking built like spiders. Outside of stuff like that, absolutely not. And so when people are like, "Well, I low bar my athletes," and someone's like, "I high bar my athletes," and my athletes never use free weights, like fuck all of you. Like compound basic movements. That's why we say movement sometimes and not exercises. If the shit is right on, the shit is right on. And that kind of goes back to the earlier point we were just making of like, if the shit is fundamentally sound, don't fuck with it. Like if you showed me an athlete that was doing a push press Olympic style, like a offensive lineman that could push press like 150K, and you showed me another guy in one of those football push press machines, James, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
The
yes, the
push sled.
jammer.
Yeah, the jammer. And you show me a guy doing like a shitload of weight on the jammer with good technique and like a real fluidity of action. It'd be like, well, which one's better? I'd be like, who's going to be better at football? I'd be like, I don't know, man. That guy doing a jammer looks pretty good to me, you know. And everything else is just sport specific technique after that. So not a big deal.
I mostly agree. I think specificity is pretty forgiving in terms of like movements that make your chest stronger in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not a big deal for the most part, though. As a sports scientist, we have to be picky about these things. Most exercises, aside from just general, development and strength carryover, there are things like load and velocity relationships that are worth considering for sport, which you don't have to consider for bodybuilding for the most part. So, for example, in sports where you have to be pretty strong, I'll just use rugby as a selfish example. You could make a case that like doing a high bar squat might be preferable to using close stance squats exclusively only from the load perspective, because you're just going to get a fuckload stronger at that point, right? Is it a huge deal if you only do close stance squats? No, you're going to make those quads and the trunk musculature stronger over time, certainly, but maybe just not as strong. I think the only issue really arises, again, on the tail ends of the spectrum. So let's say you had a choice, you were juggling, you had a football athlete and you're like, all right, I can either have him do this like kneeling one arm landmine press or a push press. If you pick the first one, you're probably doing them a very large disservice. And again, that goes back to like load velocity relationships, whereas
Because it doesn't
press,
even meet the general characteristics of a compound multi-joint
and you
athletic
could go like, oh,
exercise.
but I thought specificity said you just have to make, that muscle or that region or that movement stronger or, develop more over time. And it's like, yeah, that's part of it. But also like, the push press is going to make you a fuckload more strong and
It's the overload
explosive.
trade-off.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what I'm guessing what I'm saying is like, yes, what Mike said, I think is 95% true. Like whether it's a close grip bench or a medium grip bench, doesn't really matter. Probably not. There is some like load velocity stuff, which might give you like a small edge and it's worth considering. But in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're working with beginners and intermediates, man, who cares? Just pick one and run with it and make them really good at it.
For sure. Remember that research that Tim Sukumel did, where he like figured out that loaded jump squatting was just as power producing as like second pole derivatives and stuff like that. And
Oh
it was
yeah,
like,
that was like a big fucking deal. People were getting real pissed for no reason.
turns out it's the same movement, it's just the barbell in a different spot.
And
So,
one has like a massively reduced technical requirement, so it's much more
yep,
easily implemented and people can just get going with it. I
yep.
think he even looked at it. He did like the jump shrug one. I don't did he do the one with the trap bar? Somebody did a trap bar one and found the same thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Where it was like you don't even need to get into the mid thigh position anymore. It's just like if you can trap bar jump, like you're good, you're good.
Yep, 100%. All right. Paul Postuma. Hopefully this wasn't written posthumously.
Did we skip that last
J.
one? Sorry.
Oh, no, I guess we did. To that point, with squatting specifically for an athlete and not a lifter, is it fair to say so long as they're hitting depth, staying tight with a neutral spine and controlling the weight, giving an athlete a high bar, low bar, or feet elevated or slow eccentric or pause at the bottom is really moot point? So I would say that most of those are moot points. Low bar had to better just be way more comfortable for them somehow, because low bar fucks you up and it doesn't really get. So a lot of the reason we squat for athletes is to be able to produce vertical forces. Low bar doesn't produce as many because it sort of lower body generated vertical forces, because it's just a leveraged way to get you to lift more weight, and it'll get your back stronger and your glutes stronger. So, but it might not transfer to leg strength as much as you want to. It's funny because the way a lot of weightlifting coaches talk about squats, particularly Max Ada and Sean Waxman, who's very legendary strength coaches here, weightlifting coaches, they'll say squats are to develop leg strength, period. And they're like, but isn't it? No, just leg strength. That's what they do. And you squat enough or as much as it takes to increase your leg strength and not just to chase random squat numbers. So if you wanted to chase squat numbers, you would do like the Chris Duffin ribs down kind of squat and put it low bar and lift a shitload of weight, but your leg strength would not improve anymore. It would be other stuff. So low bar is a bit ways off, I would think. And also it fucks your elbows and shoulders up so much. I'm not really sure it belongs. But high bar squat with a variety of stances that are comfortable, just a general athletic stance, below parallel or close to there, neutral spine, I think you're good to go. And then pedantics and stuff aside, I think that's a good thing. James?
Yeah, spot on. So the low bar thing's an interesting point, because you could, like, the exercise science minded person might go, okay, but low bar you can use more weight, right? So that would be good potentially for strength athletics. And it's kind of like a yes or no maybe kind of thing, because low bar makes so many other compromises to hit that position in training. Like Mike, you said, sometimes your shoulders, elbows, back, whatever. So this is just my opinion. This isn't a right or wrong thing. Take it or leave it. Low bar, in my opinion, is only for powerlifters, because the trade-offs are so severe in terms of MRV and joint health and things like that. I don't see a point in low barring anybody but powerlifters. That's just for me.
Agreed.
So high bar for the win.
Agreed 100%. All right. Paul Postuma Menchi says...
Yeah, dude, that name, I was like, Postuma?
That's
Fuck.
pretty sweet.
That's a pretty metal name.
Very metal. Hey, doctors Mike and James, recently joined RP Plus and started a Male Physique Template 5-day. Best choice I ever made in my lifting career. It's freaking amazing. Never thought I'd ever do this much volume, but still progressing. Thanks so much for all the content you guys provide. Well, it's our pleasure.
Awesome,
thanks for joining. Last Q&A, you talked about using the 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20, 30 rep ranges with a single microcycle. I remember, if I understood correctly, you also stated that you should focus a training session on a specific rep range. That's not necessarily the case, but we'll get to that in a second. Lastly, per muscle group, that might be the case, not session. Yeah. Okay. So lastly, you mentioned Male Physique Template is not incorporating this concept. It was made before the concept was well known. Yeah, which was very well developed. For my next macro cycle, I would like to incorporate this concept. However, I'm not sure how to do this with my 5-day Male Physique Template. Well, you can't, because it's a fucking template, goddammit. It's going to do it for you, and it's going to do it not so optimally. You can fuck with it by entering your 10 RMs differently. You basically lie about your 10 RMs. So we'll cut your slack there, and let's assume you're doing that. My issue is mostly with back and chest. Day 1, chest is heavy with 3 exercises for chest and 1 for back. Day 3 is back heavy with 3 exercises for back and 1 for chest. If I stick to only using 1 rep range within a session, let's say 5 to 10 on chest day and 10 to 20 on back day, I would get quite low chest volume and very high back volume. That's actually not true. The way to count volume that is meaningful in both fatigue and stimulus is by number of hard sets. So actually your volume may be the same. What you're talking about is mathematical volume of sets times reps times weight times distance, which you can get easily very high if you just go on the rower. James, can you imagine what the mathematical back volume would be on rowing?
Jesus fucking Christ. That'd be like trying to equate how much like running matches with like leg
squats.
pressing or leg.
Yeah, exactly. So your volume won't change. Okay. It'll be the same because volume is measured in number of hard sets. Now, we could make a more advanced critique and say that you only have so many 5 to 10 rep sets until your central fatigue, systemic fatigue is just crazy. So what you could do, if it's 3 exercises for chest and 1 for back, you could do first exercise for chest 5 to 10 reps, second 5 to 10, third 10 to 15. And then for back, because you're tired, and a 5 to 10 for back would just be a way to lift a not impressive amount of weight and not even get a good mind muscle connection because you're so fatigued, is for that day for back, you could do 10 to 20 reps. And then For the back heavy day, you do 2 exercises in the 5 to 10, one in the 10 to 20 for back, and then for chest, do a 10 to 20. That way you get good rep diversity, but you're not doing anything crazy in which systemic fatigue is limiting you. And then he says, I, of course, have some solutions I have thought of, but I'd much rather hear it from the experts before I alter my already awesome program. Like Mike said last week, Q&A, don't add anything to a master's recipe. It will most likely only make it worse. Thanks for answering, Paul. So hopefully that clears it up a little bit, Paul.
I like how Paul used the like English pronunciation. I have thought of.
Yeah, he has. Maybe he's like, you're learning UK English. Oh, I thought of this fucking cunt. Oh, yeah. It's everyone in England says my English accent is an Australian accent, and I will just go ahead and say this in public. It's the same fucking accent. You motherfuckers think you're different. I tell you what, we park a fucking aircraft carrier by your 2 respective nations. You'll be part of America again, God damn it.
Oh boy.
Woo!
Oh boy.
Woo!
Mike's giving Trump a run for his money here.
I'll tell you what, man. Trump is a great man, but he's missing the essential requirement of being a true American, which is having a Southern accent.
Did you see
Tell me
that
I'm
he
wrong.
like managed to continue to obstruct justice after the Mueller probe?
I don't even pay attention to that shit anymore, man.
Dude,
That
it's
shit is too
amazing.
depressing.
So like after the probe came out, he was telling officials to say that it did not show that like he had broken the law, which is of course obstruction.
Oh my God. Impressive.
Just like
Perennially
keep going.
impressed. Why not? All right. And another man that keeps going, Cole Dano.
Oi, Dano. We had the
Oi,
pleasure of
Dano.
meeting in Helsinki.
In Finland. Yep. Hey, Docs, it looks like Paul and I have similar questions, so if there's a lot of overlap here, just tell me to piss off. I'm using a push-pull leg format based on the advanced 6-day MPT. I like this because I need the extra day of recovery for my chest and legs it provides. Yep. However, the glute focus day has me a little perplexed. It's set up a sumo deadlift, barbell lunge, good morning, and belt squat. Sumo deadlift is in the 5 to 10 rep range, but the rest of the workout is in the 10 to 20. I don't really think that's an issue given the differences in the exercises, even though they overlap in the similar body parts somewhat. Similarly with pulling days, horizontal vertical pulling, for example, day 1 pendlay row, 1-arm row, assisted pull-up was my plan, and doing heavy vertical pulling on day 2. I guess what I'm wondering is what is the logic we can use to help determine to keep the rep range of the day versus going up or down in a range in our planning. I'm used to dropping intensity over the course of a workout, so this keeping it constant for body part idea has me wondering. So here's the thing. You don't have to keep it constant, but you should keep it in a certain general range. So for example, on one day of back work, your quote unquote heavy day, you can have a 2 exercises. Let's say it's 3 exercises and you have 3 sessions over the week. Each one has 3 exercises. Back day 1, 5 to 10 for the first exercise, 5 to 10 for the second, 10 to 20 for the third. Day 2, 5 to 10 for the first, 10 to 20 for the third, 20 to 30, or sorry, 10 to 20 for the second, 20 to 30 for the third. Day 3, 10 to 20 for the first, 20 to 30 for the second, 20 to 30 for the third. Do you see how that is? We still keep our rep ranges somewhat constrained with each day. We have a much heavier day, an intermediate day that has all 3 ranges, and then a lighter day, which only has 2 again, but each one is biased to a certain extent, and we have that variation throughout the week, and the shit gets lighter as you go down. So I think that's kind of the base of the thinking, and then you can always modulate that to some extent. For example, there's nothing so particularly wrong about doing a back day that's 5 to 10, 5 to 10, 5 to 10. Not much. The only real critique is that last 5 to 10, your weight is just going to be that impressively heavy, so you might as well get more reps. And there's not any real big advantage of getting more reps. It's just that your systemic fatigue could be so high that you're better off just doing something a little bit more peripherally fatiguing, higher reps, more of an isolation type movement. You just get more oomph. You get more stimulus to fatigue ratio out of that. So it's totally okay to just go heavy, 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 and then moderate, 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 and then light, light, light later through the days. But mixing a little bit is okay. What we don't want you to necessarily do is mix it completely, which is where we have heavy, moderate, light, heavy, moderate, light, heavy, moderate, light. You can do that, and that's an effective way to train, but maybe some more diversity is a good thing. And remember, diversity or variation, really loading variation, is, again, like we mentioned, it's on a spectrum. And we want you in that bell curve of the spectrum. Don't do anything crazy, but get a little bit of variation going, but not so much that it's just you have these atomized days. James?
That was excellent. Actually, I had a slight tangent question, kind of building off of this. Mike, have you had a lot of success using the 20 to 30 rep range, either through straight sets or a combination of intensity techniques or rest times for back training specifically?
The 20 to 30 range?
Yes, either through supersets or or even we could even say like 10 to 30, right? Like just dropping it down.
The
Have you?
10 to 20 range, I've had a lot of success. The 20 to 30 range does almost dick for my back, but what I like to use it for is just a little bit more of a stimulus. Specifically, what I'll do is I'll use a 20 to 30 range weight because it's the intensity proxy, right? I'll use that
Right.
weight and I'll do pauses. Like I'll do a peak contraction, 2-second hold on a lat pull down,
Yeah, yeah.
things like that, or a row to really hit the middle of the back. That really works well for me. But straight weight, 20 to 30 usually doesn't do dick for me for back. Like for other muscles, it's great. For back, it doesn't do much. But I have 2 really hard back days in the week and 1 easier one. So the easier one, I'd purposefully do super light stuff and lets my joints heal. It's not a huge stimulus, and then I go back and hit it hard again later.
Interesting. I've had basically a very similar experience where doing anything more than the 10 to 20 range, it just doesn't seem to get
See your
anything
arms
going.
get tired. And
Yeah,
I don't even know what it's doing.
I've used it sometimes with my female clients, and I'll let them drop the reps down. Like I'll just have them take like short rests or something like that, and that seems to be okay for them. But for male clients, going above 15-ish reps just seems to be for back.
Yeah, I really actually, it's one of those situations where it's funny. People say that, well, people that are wrong say that the lighter the weight, the easier the mind muscle connection. That's actually not true. And this is, remember, the SFR concept I sort of presented on in London is sometimes the faster twitch muscles, their best mind muscle connections are reached at heavier weights. Like if you train your hamstrings very light, you don't even really connect with the muscle. And I think that's true for back. Like if I do lat pull downs with a really light weight, I can't really feel my lats. If I use a moderate weight, I'm like, oh shit, there they are. Like it takes some fucking weight, and it's different for every muscle. And I think like for many people, the pulling muscles are ones that they need a 10 to 20 range weight because otherwise they don't feel shit. On the other hand, some muscle like calves, 20 to 30 is a great way to fuck yourself up. Quads is a great way to fuck yourself up. Oftentimes arms and stuff work super well like that, but shoulders at 20 to 30 rep sets on lateral raises is perfect mind muscle connection, and it will just toast you. But it's just not like that for every muscle group. So
yeah, I agree. Cool.
Yeah. All right, Fabian Dislero.
Oh, nice.
All right.
That more
Hey,
spicily
Docs.
than I would have.
Well, there you go. Dislero. Hey, Docs. First time poster. Really happy to have this platform here. You guys doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Just finished my one-to-one coaching with Jared and moving into self-coaching again. To not mess up, I want to move into the male physique templates. Could you elaborate on the benefits of going from a 4-day to a 5 or even to a 6-day split in terms of hypertrophy outcome? I saw the 5-day one as a bit more starting volume for the legs and abs, but the rest of the MEV set numbers are the same. I'm still beginner, early, intermediate, and wonder which of the splits I should choose. I own the 4 and the 5-day ones. How much of an effect size increase one additional day would give? The true answer is quite a bit. It's not a world of difference, but it's quite a bit. I'll tell you the 2 automatic advantages of splitting up into more days. 1, it's just going to be more volume, and more volume leads to more hypertrophy. 2, another benefit of adding a day is going to be that your per session volume is going to be relatively lower to your total weekly volume. So even if your total weekly volume doesn't go up, it will, but even if it doesn't go up, your per session volume is lower, which means the average quality or your stimulus to fatigue ratio per session is going to go up. One of the reasons that is the case is that you don't ever train for long enough to where central or systemic fatigue really rises enough to really fuck you over. People have asked, if it's actually a very interesting kind of critique, interesting intellectually, practically, it's hilarious. People have asked, hey, like on the 3-day physique template, how come I can't train my forearms or whatever? And we're like, dude, you train 3 days a week. You should be happy we can train most of your large muscle groups. And then simultaneously from sometimes the same people, we have gotten the complaint of, man, my workouts take 3 hours. Well, fucking shit, they take 3 hours. Yeah. You train 3 fucking times a week and you've added a bunch of shit and now they take a long time. There's no way around it. So 6 days a week means maybe in an hour and a half, as opposed to 2.5 hours or 2 hours for the 4 and 5 day, you can get the same work done on paper, but in reality, the mind muscle connection's better, the technique was better, the average loading is probably higher, and that way you get a better quality. So not only are the individual workouts higher quality because they're more manageable on the higher frequency splits, you probably get up to a higher total volume. So those are 2 big advantages.
Yeah, excellent. And just keep in mind though, it's when you can argue like the practical versus physiological difference. So generally for phys purposes, we say the more frequency that you can deal with, the better. But on a practical sense, if you can't tolerate a 6-day program because of work or family or whatever else you got going on, don't try and force it. The best program is going to be the one that you can do consistently and always follow to the best of your abilities. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Yep. But just to reiterate, people say like, is the 6-day just a different way of splitting up the 5? Absolutely not. We would never design a program like that. There's a reason we got you going to the gym 6 fucking times a week. Tell you what, your coach is doing right now, or it's going to be doing very soon. He's probably doing it already. Jared Feather has done a 12 session per week program before, and him and Charlie and I are going to be doing an 11 session per week program, which means every day, Monday through Fridays, a 2 a day, and then Saturdays are 1 a day, and we get Sunday off. Okay, you say, oh my God, why the fuck are they training that much? Literally, I posted I saw on Instagram and Facebook, James, I posted the 11th session because people keep asking me what my split is.
Oh, I saw that you posted that, yeah.
A bunch of comments or questions are like, so is there a reason you're splitting up the sessions to 2 a day or just preference? Preference? Who the fuck prefers to go to the gym twice a day? Fuck, I have to get an Uber or whatever. I got to walk. It's fuck that. I'd rather just get it all done. There's no fucking way I can get that much work done at that level of high quality. One of my workouts, if I was to combine it, would be heavy legs and heavy back. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Oh, yeah, fuck that.
There's just no way, right? So it's one of those, like, there's a reason you do a lot of sessions. And if you're doing a lot of sessions with no reason, then you're really fucking up. Like, if you could combine a workout just fine and you're not, you're just pissing away time.
That's also a stupid question. Like, is there a reason why you do this? No, there's no fucking reason why I'm doing this. It's just totally random nonsense.
Yeah, for sure. And then you get this polar opposite question of asking things that are completely like so they clearly have no reason. I post a bunch of a picture of like rice, chicken, and bread, and someone's like, "Do you eat that bread just like you eat it, or do you like put the chicken on it and then mix it with the rice?" I'm like, "Oh my God, who gives a shit? Do you think that matters?" And then I realized, like, I don't even know. It's just like, is that just like a celebrity thing? Is people just curious? I don't even know. It's like,
yeah,
fuck.
It's weird. So like, it's like if you take your car into the shop for like a routine, like 60,000 mile checkup, and the mechanic is looking at the list of things he's supposed to check up, and somebody's like, "Is there a reason why you check those things up?" Like, what are you supposed to say at that point? Like, you just look at the person like, "What?" Yes, there's a reason why we have a list of things that we need to check on this car.
Yeah, and then the mechanic is chewing gum while he's working. You're like, does the gum give you an advantage? And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Get the fuck out of here, please.
Amazing. All right. Number 2, I'm currently planning on setting up a home gym in the corner of my home office. It's 4 to 6 square meters. What kind of equipment will I need to allow for proper training with the MPTs? I feel like legs would be the hardest part to keep variation up without any machines. Would it make sense to invest in a Smith machine? No. Half rack to be able to have at least one machine-like quad variation at hand? No. Because barbells and Smith machines are too similar, so I would say invest in some kind of I would actually say the best leg machine to invest in if you're going to buy a machine. Nick Shaw has this in his home gym, is a alternating hack squat leg press.
A couple of my clients have that too. It's fucking sweet.
Nifty machine, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to decide this early on because I can't be upgraded later on. Since budget is short, I plan to gradually buy equipment in useful steps. To move whole days of training at gym to home training, my idea was to first get heavy dumbbells, a bench, and a pull-up bar to move pull focus day to home. After that, get a barbell to move the glutes focus day. A half rack probably allow to moving all training to my home gym. I wouldn't do a half rack. I would buy a whole rack. Finally, I can pimp up a plate-loaded cable, leg, and cable pull and leg curl edition. Any advice on that? I heard James also training home. James, hit it.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on how much space. You already said 4 to 6 square meters, but how much money you really want to spend. So what I would say is you can get a squat stand, and some of them have a pull-up bar attachment. Those are like $300, $400. And it's easy to move around your house. Whereas like a squat rack, once you put it up, it's mostly staying wherever you put it. Squat stand gives you most of the same advantages of the squat rack. If you get the pull-up bar attachment, now you can do pull-ups on there all in the same station. After that, you get an adjustable bench and a barbell, and fuck me, that's it. Now you just got to get some weights, and it's still an expensive endeavor, but once you have an adjustable bench and the squat rack or squat stand and a barbell, you can do just about anything, right? After that, then you can start looking at, like I got the Bowflex dial twisty dumbbells. Those are great. They don't take up much space. Mel and I use the fuck out of those. And any other little fancy things you want to get. I mean, like between the barbell and having some dumbbells, you have virtually infinite variations that you can use, especially if you factor in using different rep ranges and intensity techniques. That's the thing. So people say like, oh, well, what about like what about squatting? Like how many leg variations can I have? Well, you got your high bar squats, you got your close stance squats, you have different feet positions like mid stance sumo, feet forward, you have paused, you have controlled eccentrics, you have, 5 to 10, 10 to 20. I mean, like you can't run out of variation on those things, even though people like to think that you can. It's hard because you can't rack up maybe quite as much volume on something like with a leg press or a hack squat, but you can do just fine. So it really just depends on how much the bank you want to break, right? So if you want to get some machines and stuff, cool. They take up a lot of space. So like Mike suggested, the leg press hack squat combo, you want things that are multiple, that can serve multiple purposes, right? You want a squat rack or a squat stand that also has a pull-up bar that you can bench press on, you can shoulder press, you can do pull-ups, you can do legs, you can do everything. So that's the route I would go. Don't even buy fucking fancy machines yet. Just get a barbell and some weights, and you're good to go. I don't want to, it's not. I'm not trying to just be like the Iron Brotherhood, like fucking just get after it, brother. But the reality is, it's like once we got the barbell, like once Mel and I had a barbell, we could just train at home as much as we wanted. There wasn't really anything out that we couldn't do. The only things that I kind of lament not having currently is a leg press and like a pulley system, like a lat pull down. But it's nothing that you can't be creative and work around.
Yeah, kudos. I second that. Number 3, my girlfriend, obviously imaginary, asked for advice. She wants to reduce fat a little and get thinner, more defined legs. Sure lifts 2 to 3 times a week on machines and tracks her calories for 1.5 years, lost about 6 kilograms during this time. However, she was bulimic for 10 years. I don't want to give misleading advice. She is stable without attacks and has been in therapy for 12 years now. Body weight is in a healthy range around 23 to 25%. I would like to underline that she approached me and I have no plans on pushing her in any direction other than supporting her. While it's obvious that she likely would have to reduce body fat in order to her goals, I'm not sure if I should support this undertaking and coach her. Any advice? Yes, you're absolutely not qualified to coach her. Neither are James and I or anyone without a registered dietetics license and or medical doctor. So you refer her to one of those people only.
Yeah, it's just you're just playing with fire at that point. And
especially because she's your girlfriend, by the way.
That's actually what I was going to say is some people you can have that relationship where, a person is essentially in a position of authority over another and they can recognize that and be okay with it. I would say most can't. Like Mel and I, she'll ask me for advice on training and stuff, and that's fine. I've had plenty of other relationships where that advice was unwelcome or resented. So I would say most
resented
cases,
after being asked for too. That happens sometimes.
Exactly right. So I'd say more often than not, you just don't want to coach your significant other. There are instances where people can deal with that, but they're special circumstances, I would say.
Yeah, and with the addition of the history of disordered eating, that's really
it's just not good.
All right. Ansuman Radhakrishnan says, "Hey docs, hope you're both doing well. Just a quick question about meal timing today. I eat my last meal of the day about an hour before I go to bed, say something like 10:30 p.m. to go to bed at 11:30. Then I sleep for 9 hours or so and have my first meal the next day around 9:30 a.m. So up to 11 hours after my last meal the previous day, since I make sure my protein source is casein based. I have most of my fats in my bedtime meal. Am I avoiding catabolism sufficiently? Should be more strict about eating pretty much right away and getting up closer to bedtime the night before to avoid getting too close to accidentally fasting. There's nothing wrong with fasting for probably 4 to 6 hours every 24-hour period, and there's no amount of that your body doesn't have a reflexive feedback loop to cause more muscle growth to make up for. It's fasting any longer than that becomes a problem. So I think you're totally in the clear, and you've got a huge fucking margin.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really paranoid about it, I would say maybe push your bedtime meal a little further back, but I don't even think it's necessary. I think you're golden.
Jackson Teller. Hey, docs.
It's a very vanilla name. I'm unimpressed.
Come on, Jackson. You can do better than that. Take about 250 to 450 milligrams of caffeine on a daily basis, and it really helps with focus and mood enhancement. I have no desire to take more since the effect I want is always the same. I feel no bad side effects, but I'm wondering if there are any long-term health risks that I might not notice right now. Nope, absolutely not. That range of caffeine intake has been studied very well, and long-term it may even enhance your health, so I wouldn't worry about a fucking thing.
Yeah, the only instance where it might be just worth looking into a little bit is if you have like a very, very strong family history of cardiovascular illness, especially like if you've had people die prematurely from heart attacks or something.
Blood pressure.
Might be worth, yeah, blood pressure might be worth talking to your doc about it, but I don't, other than that, I can't think of any reason.
Oh boy, here we go. Julian Parra says, "Hey docs, I've been having some trouble with my piriformis being tight. So halfway through this meso, I have to quite a bit of lower body work. As the glute pain is pretty bad, even to the point where driving my glutes into the bench for bench pressing irritates it. I'm thinking that this meso, or at least next couple of weeks, is a write-off for lower body growth. I'm just trying to stick to the basic isolations, leg curls, extensions, and leg press. Anything that doesn't irritate it, and remove all glute work except for rehab stretching. Any ideas regarding this? I'm in my second of 3 mesos, and we'll be doing a metabolite phase next. I find my lower body definitely having its limitations on my MRV. To avoid injuries a lot lower than the volume the muscles can handle. One of the last 1.5 months ago, I had crazy hip flexor pain, which I thankfully fixed. Thank you all." James, this is a bit more in your wheelhouse here.
I think what you're suggesting is basically what we advocated in the previous question, right? Where it basically just like switch to maintenance volumes, do things that relatively big movements like the knee extensions, the knee curls, and leg pressing. If you can do them pain-free, this is just one of those things where you probably either overreach the muscle or the connective tissue in there, and maybe you just got some tendonitis or something weird going on, and you just got to rest it for a little bit. So I would say work around it pain-free using high repetitions, basically bring it down to maintenance volume until it kind of subsides, bring the glute back in slowly once the pain goes away consistently. And then you might have to reevaluate how you approach your posterior chain and even some of your quad work from that point on. Because if you keep getting like hip-related injuries, like a hip flexor injury in the past, and then kind of like, a piriformis now, you might just be chronically overdoing it on like the hip or just leg training in general. That would be my thought. There's no shame though in bringing shit down to maintenance volume. Like people, like if you have an injury, what's the alternative?
You got to handle your shit 100%.
Handle it now, or it's going to be a pain in your ass. In this case, literally, forever. Yep. So just deal with it, and it sucks. I know, but trust me, it's like we all feel that pain where it's like things are going well. Why I don't want to put my gains and my life on hold, but it is what it is. You just got to deal with it as it comes up. No big deal.
Yep. Jorge Galeano Kenya says, "Hey guys, number one, this is related to your seminar in London. I saw an Instagram story from the people that was there about maximum session volume. Can you talk a bit about that? Do you have any rough numbers when that can be? How does one find it?" That's a little bit outside the scope of what we do here, but I'll say that the maximum session volume is probably somewhere in the 10 to 15 set per muscle group range. And you find it by figuring out which sets are counterproductive. They basically generate a shitload of fatigue and not a whole lot of stimulus, junk volume. And in addition to that, you find out when you become debilitatingly sore from enough sets per session, in which you spend most of your time healing from soreness and not growing anymore. So if the tail end of your sessions is you're doing a shitload of work that is no longer heavy or stimulative, and you don't feel like you have a mind-muscle connection, and your pump isn't actually very impressive anymore, you're just getting really tired. And if those kinds of workouts make you sore for like 4 or 5 days at a time and really reduce your frequency and the quality of your ability to recover, then you're probably in excess of that number. But there's much more detail we covered in the seminar, which the video stuff on that is going to be out for public consumption later, so we don't want to preempt it too much.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into that just because it was an exclusive for that seminar. So
yeah,
unfortunately, this is one of the few times where we're going to maybe table that for later. So apologies.
Yeah. Number 2, do you have any rule for consistency's sake that help you decide when one working set is over, like how much breaths you're allowed to get before doing another rep? But if you wait more, you end the set there. I'm getting better at sticking to our isolation movements. So for compounds, especially squats and deadlifts, sometimes it feels like a guessing game.
We did talk about this a couple of weeks ago. There's no hard rule. The only rule is that you do it the same way all the time for consistency's sake, right? So if you want to do breathers, great, do breathers. If you don't do breathers, just don't keep not doing breathers, right? The
Yep.
problem that you run into is when you don't do breathers and then you start adding breathers, or when you normally take breathers, but you're considering adding more breathers that are irregular for yourself. So the bottom line is kind of like what we say with wearing a weight belt. If you like using it, keep using it. And if you don't use it, and just do it the same all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Number 3, what do you think about doing a single with just a bit more weight on your compounds so you feel the working sets lighter? I think that's just a fine idea. I think potentiation can be the same weight as your working set, and you do a single, or you can do a single or even a double with 10% higher weight, and then your working weight feels great, and your submissive fatigue ratio is really high. So I've done that before, and I think it works great. It's not a must, but I think it works okay, James.
Yeah, just keep in mind that's not meant to be like an overloading single. It's a well underdosed single relative to what you would be doing in training for singles, right? That's the idea there. So like I think if people could misinterpret that and say, all right, I'm gonna work up to like a 95% of my 1RM before
5RM at the heaviest.
Yeah, exactly. So just don't do that. But yeah, that's perfectly fine. And when you unrack that bar, it's gonna feel light as fuck.
Yeah. All right. Nina Yang says, hi, docs. First time poster here. A few questions. Are there ghetto MEV indicators for strength training? Is there a consistent relationship with MEV for strength and hypertrophy? For example, strength is MEV is 75% of hypertrophy MEV. Not reliably. Yeah, it's roughly 2/3, I think.
2/3 we say is a good rough starting point, but there's still some guess and check in there.
Yeah. I think strength ghetto MEV, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. The most pertinent sort of ghetto measurement would be, do you feel like you were sufficiently somewhat challenged in the workout? Did the weight push back? Okay. Like an MEV session for strength for your chest, was you pushed and the weight was like, ugh, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, we're working now. You know, that perception of effort, of high tension. If you don't get that, if all of your shit is a smooth, you're probably not getting stronger. Getting stronger means that you have to do challenging force application. So if you feel challenged, you're probably well on your way. If you don't feel challenged at all, you're probably below MEV.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to use the term mind-muscle connection because that's kind of wrong in this instance. But I think one thing to keep in mind too is like the movement connection, right? Where you feel like you're executing your strength, which might be a competition style technique, and it's challenging, but your technique doesn't break down. It feels economical. It feels like you're moving without a lot of, when I say shakes, I mean like irregularities or inefficiencies in your bar path, right? You feel like, okay, although this is challenging, I can execute my technique very forcefully with lots of stability, and it's not like a shit show. Usually that's a good sign. You had a good session.
Yeah. Anything higher probably is not the greatest thing in the world. Then it's above MEV. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've got like 8 sets of 5 and you're shitting your pants, probably way above MEV.
Yeah. And like technique breakdown would be something to keep out for in that case too. Like how many sets before your technique breaks down? Okay, well, 3 sets you're gold, and 4 or 5 sets your technique starts going to shiza. Like, okay, well, that might be something to keep in mind.
All right. Is there ever a place for low bar squats in a hypertrophy program?
Oh, we just did this one.
That's the bar just too damn high. Now I think almost always it's too damn high.
Too damn high. I love that.
I love that guy. The tax guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
James, you got anything to add there, or is it just pretty much, yeah, that's it?
Yeah, that's it. We talked about it earlier. Powerlifting only, and only for strength.
Yep. All right. In a past webinar, there's a question on what to do with your training when you're losing strength on a cut and can't complete all the reps at your goal. Weight in a session, Dr. Mike said physique athletes should drop the weight and add another set, but that's strength athletes should not drop the weight instead and continue the same weight until they get the intended number of total reps in. Yeah, that's what I said. I was hoping you could expand on why that is. I would have thought that in both cases, the person should do more volume at a lower weight to prevent further muscle loss. Since muscle is a huge driver of strength and lost neural adaptations would be easier to get back than the lost muscle. Well, if you're doing a cut on strength,
yeah, first let's tackle that one first.
Then assuming you want to keep being as strong as possible, if you start lowering your weights, you won't be as strong as possible, and it could take weeks to get your neural adaptation back. It's actually lost muscle is, believe it or not that hard to get back. Sometimes neural adaptation takes longer to get back. Sometimes not. The fundamental reason here is your number one goal as a strength athlete is to retain strength. Your number one goal as a physique athlete is to retain muscle. So if you're a strength athlete and you're, I wouldn't say losing strength on a cut, but if you're just a bit too fatigued, okay, and you need to finish the overload stimulus, then finish on the note of making sure the intensity is right, and the volume, not just the volume. Now, if you're losing strength chronically and you're a strength athlete and you're on a cut, then you have this is not it's an intractable problem. You have to stop cutting and refigure some shit. But this was the strength thing was like, if you have a bad session at the end of your accumulation, you're really fatigued, maybe dieted down. How do you make up the volume that you're now sort of losing because you couldn't complete the workout as written? You add in more heavy reps for strength because you need that stimulus, assuming that you're going to recover from that stimulus after the bad week is over and you're going to go and have a great rest of your cut or a rest of so much. James?
Yeah, I kind of have a couple points I want to tackle here. So first off, you shouldn't be doing strength training on a cut phase. That's the immediate problem that you got to fix. So if you're doing strength training and cutting at the same time, stop what you're doing. Either start hypertrophy training or start eating at maintenance calories. Pick one, have at it. Don't cut and do strength training at the same time. It's a recipe for potential for muscle loss and certainly for strength loss. They just don't mix. It's like water and oil. Now, that being said, one thing that people often confuse is losing muscle on a cut because their rep performance went down a little bit. Mike already said this, but that's mostly a result of just being fatigued from the cut. One thing to consider is that if you're having a consistent problem week to week matching the reps that you did in the previous weeks, your RIR is way too fucking high each time that you're training. What you're probably doing either consciously or unconsciously is training at one RIR every time. What you need to do is dial it back in the early weeks quite a bit to like 3, 2. And then you really shouldn't have much problem unless you're like in a dire cut situation matching reps, right? Sorry, it's just like I always get skeptical about that because we have all done that. So I know when that problem arises, it's not because I'm losing muscle, or in the past, it's not because I was actually losing muscle. It was because I was training too intensely and it was just impossible to keep up. And the reason that is because you're just going too close to failure and there's no way you can match. So tone back your reps in reserve a little bit and add sets as needed. Sorry, there's one other thing I can't quite remember, but basically it was, you're not under the impression that you're necessarily losing muscle. It's usually just a fatigue preparedness thing.
Yeah.
So just keep that
and if you're just unnecessarily fatigued one session or something, and you're a strength athlete, even if it's a hypertrophy session, don't drop the weight. Just add in more reps at the same load to keep your neurological adaptations in the right track. But if it's a consistent thing that you're reducing your strength, that's how muscle loss occurs, right? Over time, not in a single session. And then you have a fucking real big problem that adjustments can't solve. It has to be a more fundamental shift.
Yeah. So just don't conflate those two things. And I think the problem is confusing like muscle loss and performance and, strength athletes cutting and doing strength training. You just don't want to do that at all. People do it. Right, like in the real world, that's what people do. But we're saying, don't do that. It's stupid. It's waste.
Yeah. All right. We're just gonna say his name is Mircea Belai just to fuck with him.
We finally had the pleasure of meeting him.
Yep, super cool guy. He says, "Yo, docs, just want to say that London seminar was lit, and it was a pleasure to finally meet both of you and Gabrielle. By the way, Dr. Mike, my quads are still fucked up from the workout. It was exactly the workout I had planned for that day, but it never made me as sore. You promised that I was going to die, and I did. LOL.
You delivered.
Awesome. Yeah. So thanks, guys, for the amazing experience and for everything you do. Can't wait to see you again. Likewise.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
I have just one short question regarding 2-a-day training. What would be the minimum time between 2 sessions to actually consider them as separate sessions? Thanks as always. I would say that there is no minimum time. Even if you have, let's say, a lot of work to do in a single workout, and let's say you're traveling and you have to combine your 2 sessions into one, just taking a 10-minute break where you have a drink, you sit down on the couch at the gym, you scroll on your phone for a bit, and then, like, let's say you did back and then you go and do shoulders, is better than finishing back 2 minutes later starting shoulders. Of course, 30 minutes is better. Of course, an hour is better, so on and so forth. So fundamentally, there is no distinct minimum time, but I will say this: one meal cycle is the preferred minimum. So what does that mean? After your session, you should be able to eat a good post-workout meal that functions as a pre-workout meal for your next session. Have enough time for fully digesting and absorbing all the food, and then hitting it. So that puts it at, depending on the meal, 1.5 to 3 hours, James.
God damn, we are like, I was going to say 3 hours, and the only constriction wasn't the actual time itself, but the ability to get a meal in and have time to just digest and relax for a moment.
Yep, to refuel. All right, Lewis. Holy shit.
Freilingsdorf.
That's pretty sweet.
So German.
Luis. Hey, Docs, London seminar was great. Of course, I had to sign up for RP Plus instantly. Sweet.
That's funny.
So here I am with my
There were
first
so
question.
many goddamn Germans there. It was fun.
Tons, lots of Germans. At the end of June, I'm visiting the U.S. for 3 weeks with my buddy.
Awesome.
We're doing a trip on the West Coast, visiting all the big cities and, of course, national parks. Make sure you watch Nick Kroll European. Type in Nick Kroll European on YouTube, and you'll get a preview of what your trip is going to look like.
I'm pretty sure I talked to him because now that I see what he's writing about, I think I actually met him and was talking about this.
There you go.
Yeah.
After 6 months of bulking, I'm currently cutting, and I plan on maintaining at least for the time being in the U.S. Training and maintenance volume and hitting protein targets should not be a problem while traveling. However, hitting maintenance calories can be quite difficult due to fluctuating energy expenditure walking around the city and hiking national parks. Should I buy a bodyweight scale and track my weekly averages?
No.
And or eat a certain amount of calories my intake when doing X amount of steps over baseline? Is there maybe a good rule of thumb to determine how many calories are burned when doing extra steps? Thank you so much and greetings from Germany. Listen, I'm going to just cut you the biggest fucking favor you've ever been done. And by that, I mean, it's not a big favor, but here's the deal. Come to America, eat delicious high protein foods and eat lots of them because America has amazing food that's basically free. We have the fattest people in the world for a fucking reason. Enjoy your time. Don't you worry about what you weigh and what fucking calories you're eating. Come back to Germany. Whichever way, if you lost weight or gained weight, you probably gained some. Whatever you have to do to adjust, back on the grind, cut a little bit longer than you would have or whatever, and just check mark that fucking awesome America trip as a success where you're not fucking dragging a scale around and counting bullshit. James?
God, yeah, no, totally. I 100% agree. One other suggestion that I will give to you, which I've had a lot of success with my clients as well, hit 1 month of maintenance before your trip, because you will find that you will immediately, like, whatever you do or don't do on any given day, you just tend to bounce back a lot easier once you've got 1 month of maintenance under your belt. You can have a really shitty day where you don't do anything and eat too much, and you'll bounce back pretty close. And then you'll have an outstanding day where you fucking hike in Yosemite and maybe you didn't eat enough, and it just ends up evening out really well. So hit a month of maintenance before you hit the road, and I'm pretty confident you're going to have a great time and not have to worry about it.
Yep. Will Adams says, hey, Docs, would you consider a BJJ class with 1 hour technical drilling plus some set sparring, or a kickboxing class, the primary drilling and pad work, to be a non-training day when on a cut? In other words, if I lift in the AM and then take on one of these classes in the PM, would that only count as one workout in that day? Thanks. But you can count it in a variety of ways. With the app, you can actually count it as exactly what it is. But if you're using templates or something, or you're working from the book, I would say it's either a light session or a non-training. James?
Yeah. I'm just reading it again just to double check. Yeah, I would say both would be like a light session, more or less. You could just basically take your non-training day and have a little bit more carbs or something like that. Either way, not a big deal.
Yep.
What you don't need to do is like have a workout shake and like your huge post-workout stuff. Like, nah. The app makes this kind of stuff really easy because you can just choose how active you are throughout the day and da-da-da-da-da.
Yep. Ugh, my RP Plus reloaded for no goddamn good reason. Now I lost the fucking videos, webinars. Okay, to the live stream.
People were queuing up questions before like it was even close to being time.
Yep. All right. Michelle Karam says, "Hello, doctor. Sorry for making you in conflict every time about my name. LOL. My name is Michael, but I'm writing it Michelle. So today I have one more question. Sorry again. First of all, Michelle, stop stop apologizing for questions. You pay us money. Second of all, motherfucker, you write your name Michelle. We don't call you Michelle. Your name is Michael. Write that shit Michael. God damn. Anyway, all right, Michael Karam it is. Let's start. First, I wanted to see my photos that I sent you to your Instagram, Dr. Mike. This is before and after photos to see my progress. The first 3 photos are the before ones. I have never gotten your photos. I do not check on labeled DMs on Instagram. I will never see your photos. If you send them to me on Instagram, if you're my Facebook friend, you can send me them there. Otherwise, I will never see dick on Instagram. All right. Sorry, Michael. All right. Number 1, I started my cutting phase on the 3rd of March. My weight was 84.2 kilograms. Now my weight is 80.7 kilograms. Very good improvements in my physique. I'm thinking to join my first bodybuilding contest ever, WNBF in Israel, on October or November. My contest weight should be about 68 to 70 kilograms. So I have 10 to 12 more kilograms to lose. Now I will continue to lose weight until I get to 75. So this is about 10% of my starting weight. After that, I should make a maintenance phase before counting. Should I make a maintenance phase before counting, continuing to lose 5 to 7 kilograms, or just continue without stopping? I would hire a bodybuilding coach for your first show and have them plan it out. There are a number of folks in Israel that do really, really good coaching. I wish if you message me on Facebook, I could put you in touch with some of these guys. God damn it. Get a coach.
Get a coach for sure.
Get a coach.
The only thing that I think besides get a coach we can say is for your first one, don't plan on losing it all in one shot. Plan on taking at least
for
one
sure
small
definitely
break.
Maintenance, but I don't know if we'd have to have a coach take a look at you.
Yeah, you're going to want somebody to have some one-on-one interaction at that point. But I think what we can probably agree on is don't try and lose all the weight and go right into the show. Lose a whole bunch of weight, get lean as fuck, take a short break, and then get that last chunk done.
Yeah. Somebody to look into in Israel is Amnon Vyjaslavsky. So give that name a ring on Facebook and see what comes up, and he may be working with you. Number 2, I'm now more than 1 month on the same weekly set volume, and I'm only trying to increase my volume with reps or with weights. I'm also using varied rep ranges. My strength is increasing very well, although I'm not losing weight. How is this possible? Does this indicate some muscle hypertrophy while I'm losing weight?
He is
although I am losing weight. Maybe the reason is because I was following low volume program Max OT for a long time before I started to train like you recommend. It's possible for 50 different reasons, one of which is just chance, and one of which is within a mesocycle it is impossible to tell about anything because it's all fitness versus fatigue, and we don't know which one it is. So no clue. But over multiple mesos, if you're still improving, then you probably are gaining either neural efficiency or muscle the entire time.
Yeah, we'd like to tell you that you're recomping and give you a pat on the back. We just don't know. So it's only time will tell.
Number 3, I asked you before about if someone didn't train for a while, does his MEV is 0? And you said that if he's in a deficit, it will be +1. So I have structured workout routine 3 times per week, full body workouts, each 1 session for each muscle group. And the progress will be by the number of reps for the first 3 weeks. Until the 4th week, I will add 1 set to 1 session. So it will be 4 total sets per muscle group per week instead of 3. Is this enough for stimulating the muscles? I have to mention that the goal is not muscular hypertrophy. It's only to hold the current muscles. This is for the lady friend, I assume. And to lose fat. And then deload week, is it okay? Or is it better to make 1 day per week and put all the 3 sets into 1 session instead of splitting up in 3 days? I think for someone of such meager goals, you don't need a deload week for about 12 weeks. You just keep training. And I think it's a fine setup you have. Is it okay to not stimulate to preserve muscle? You just look at strength. If the strength is increasing or stable, then you don't have to worry about muscle loss. If the strength starts to go down, then probably more volume is needed. James?
Yeah, so just keep in mind, like the question you're asking us is impossible for us to answer. So you're saying like, is this number enough for this person that we don't
Yeah.
know, who is basically what you're saying is untrained, at least partially untrained, to do this number of sets? Dude, we have no idea. And that's
Yeah.
not because I'm trying to dismiss your question. It's literally just one of those things. Like, you just have to guess and check. There's no way for us to say 3 is 4 is bad, or whatever. It doesn't matter. There's no answer we can give you on that one outside of like, okay, well, if she was basically untrained on those muscles and she's cutting, something is better than nothing. What that something needs to be to not lose muscle, it's on an individual basis. So again,
Yeah.
volume landmarks, guess and check kind of thing.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to bust your balls. I just want you to understand, and for other people to understand, like that's an impossible question. So it's very difficult for Mike and I to give you a specific answer. It's just a generalized answer. Like, yeah, maybe seems okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Number 4. When I build my training program from MEV to MRV, according to Renaissance Diet 2.0 book, it will be difference between calories for each workout. For example, the workout will have 10 total sets, will require less calories, and the workout will have 25 sets. So now my question is, each week of the program, when I increase the volume, I also increase the calorie intake. I want to be in the same deficit or surplus as the week before. Does every week require to calculate calories again when we start another metacycle of MEV again? I will start by lower calories according to the training volume. So the thing is, like, the difference between the workouts and how big they are as far as calories are concerned is tiny.
Yeah.
And there's so many other variables going on that I would just keep the diet the same week to week to week and go on body weight. And I would not adjust weekly on calories. I used to do that back in the day, and it just didn't lead to anything other than complexity.
And you already have the Renaissance Diet 2.0, and there, I know because I had to read that whole fucking thing out loud. There is definitely a distinct section which talks about what to do when your weekly body weight change is not on point, and that's what you would end up using. So it's not that calories need to be reassessed on a week to week, but body weight change does need to be assessed on a week to week, and that's what you would use to determine if calories need to be changed. And the book will say that.
Yep, very good. All right. Number 5, after reaching the weight I want, how fast should I return to eat at maintenance calories? The next day.
Yeah,
the next day.
As fast as you want, really.
Yeah, and don't do it any slower than the next day, because staying in a shittier diet just gives you shittier results and keeps increasing the diet fatigue. Maintenance calories the next day. By the way, you won't gain any fat doing that because it's maintenance. It's a self-solving problem.
Woo.
Number 6, when the goal is to build muscle, 0.25% to 1% in a month is a good rate for weight gain? Yep.
Yeah.
Does eating at maintenance can also build muscle in long term with less body fat increase? Probably not anything you want to bet on. So, no.
So keep in mind, like, why do we call it maintenance? What does maintenance imply? It implies no change in the current state.
Yep.
Right. It doesn't mean that you gain muscle and lose fat. So I'm not trying to be an asshole, but this is one of those things like that. We get this question a lot, and I don't understand the justification for it. And I'm not trying to be a dickhead here, but it's not called like a body composition change. It's not called a recomping phase. It's called a maintenance phase, and maintenance means no change. So why on earth do people keep assuming that they can keep getting muscular and leaner?
Well, it's very tempting, right? If only.
Like, if that was the case, we would just do that all the fucking time, and we wouldn't need to cut.
Sweet.
You know what I mean? Just, I'm not trying to like make people feel bad, but at the same time, it's like these are one of these things that I think that people don't think through, and that is my position stance on what a stupid question is. Like, if you're not willing to think about it, then don't ask. Right? That's the problem. So, and I'm not calling you stupid. I hope that's not how this comes off. But this is one of those things. Like, it is called the maintenance phase for a reason, and that's my point. So I'll leave it alone.
Neil P says, I heard your explanation for why you did not include leg extensions as a quad exercise, but I don't think you addressed what I would consider the primary reason for adding leg extensions to a squat variation. All the squat variations listed for quads load the quads when they are stretched. That's good. But the load approaches 0 as the legs lock out. Not good. I understand why the training adaptation is specific to the range of motion that's under tension. That's why I thought it was a very good idea to add exercise that loads the quads when they are fully contracted. Am I wrong about this? Am I missing something? Thanks. No, you're not. I think that's fine concern. If you're after that extra 1%, 2% of muscle growth, I think that's okay. if we're going to be a very, very pedantic, then ideally you would actually do leg extensions in such a way that allows you to lie back while you're leg extending, because then that would really stretch the quads out and allow peak contraction for all of the quad muscles except for just a few of them. But yeah, it's totally a thing, and I think leg extensions on occasion are a very good variant for covering all the bases biomechanically. I just think it's a very small percentage of the total results.
Yeah, we've talked about this many number of times, and there's nothing wrong with the leg extension, and it does accomplish some specific cool things. It's just not a great bang for your buck in terms of other exercise choices like the squats.
Yep.
Unless you're
all right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people actually. Ansuman Radhakrishnan says, one other quick question for you guys. I need to get my wisdom teeth out sometime in the next few months while I'm at home for the summer. Do you think it would be a better idea to get them out during a deload after a mini cut when hunger would be higher, but because of the wisdom teeth surgery, I physically won't be able to eat that much anyway? Or in the deload after completion of my mass when hunger would be so low that soft liquid food / liquid foods I would be eating would be easier to get down? Obviously super nitpicky here. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on this since I have the scheduling flexibility. I would by a long shot pick the deload after massing because it just means you won't be so fucking pissed. And also, deloading after cutting is a real recovery intensive time in which eating more food is a really good idea. And you don't want to do that while recovering from a fucking massive tooth surgery. So I would say after massing is the best time.
Yeah, and like you're still going to be, post mini cut, there's going to be a several day period where you're still actually recovering and alleviating fatigue from the mini cut that you did. So you don't want to be splitting your recovery resources as little as you can, right? So I would do it post mass just because you're going to be in a very well recovered state and you won't have to be diverting precious recovery resources healing from your training because you'll be basically maxed out in preparedness at that point. And don't do what I did, man. I got my wisdom teeth out on my bottoms, and I got what's it called? Dry rot in both of them.
Fuck.
It was fucking miserable. But of course, I did everything they told me not to do, and you know how that goes.
Yeah. Good job,
Don't try and lift and do dumb shit. Yeah,
really take it easy.
Clean them shits out.
Your body will be back in fighting shape in no time.
Don't drink.
Jesus Christ, really, JMO?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Hassan Yumin says, hey, docs, I have a question regarding mini cutting, resensitization, and fat phobia. Some quick background about my situation. I've been lifting consistently for 2 years now, plus some previous intermittent lifting, but due to my fat phobia, I have spent too much of this time hypo or isocaloric. It never got a lot of progress by stopping my bulk shortly after beginning, as I was already quickly in the high teen body fat percentages, even with slower rates of gain. I finished the 4th week of my 6-week mini cut and went from 160 pounds at 18% fat to 150 pounds at 13% fat on 5'10". Hope to lose about 3 more pounds and ended 11 to 12% body fat. I believe my mistake here was that I probably should have done a full traditional cut. Yes, correct. But I underestimated my body fat percentage when I was beginning and also incorrectly assumed a mini cut would fully resensitize my body to volume for massing. That's also false. I'd like to fluctuate and remain between 8 to 15% body fat year round at some point, but now I recognize that my physique really does need much more mass. What would be the best option for me to dig myself out of this hole and really potentiate successful long-term massing? Then I need to put an end to my cyclic self-sabotage. I got one really good answer for you. Your rate of gain on your next mass phase should be very small. Like you should be aiming to gain a quarter of your body weight per week. Okay, 0.25%. So that's really small. And that means you have like 3 or 4 months of massing just to get to 15% body fat. Once you get to 15% body fat, 3 fucking months of massing or 4 months, that's a lot. This was some good muscle. Do a 1 or 2 month maintenance phase, do a proper 10 to 12 week fat loss phase, get down to 10% or so, and then you're between 10 and 15 and just rock it out. So if you want more muscle, slow down your massing and don't put all your weight in 1 or 2 weeks. James?
That was brilliant. It was really good.
Martin Kumaru says
he changed his avatar from this weekend already.
Yep, to me and him.
Excellent.
All right. Hey, docs, is there a limit to the amount of fructose it's okay to ingest, assuming one stays within the macros? I am 6'3" and usually get about 200 carbs from fruit. Is that okay? Yeah, I've heard the various limits to fructose. There is a fructose limit until then. After that, it turns to fat. I don't know what it is. That's literally just don't make it my business to know. Broderick Chavez knows. Maybe you can ask him.
I think like at least for now, what we can say is it might be a good idea to have a variety of carbohydrate sources.
Yeah.
But I don't think like if you eat mostly fruit, are you doing yourself a big disservice? Probably not.
Probably not, but 200 grams of carbs from fruit seems like a lot. So I would say probably maybe half of that, and you'd be better off. But
Get some grains in there.
yeah,
Split it up a little bit.
Number 2, I believe that during a Nutrition for Muscle Gain lecture, Mike said he has to eat up to 900 grams of carbs a day. How much of that is special sports supplements causing you to burn more calories due to extra muscle mass? That's 2 factors. Special sports supplements themselves don't cause you to burn that many more calories. Maybe not at all, possibly less because they improve feed efficiency. Extra muscle mass does mean I get to eat more carbs, yes, but not directly. And the other one is higher volume workouts. And more load on the bar, and how much are things like BJJ and stuff like that. Things like BJJ and stuff like that is physical activity, is 95% of why I had to eat that many carbs. Mind you, that was with 45 to 60 grams of fat per day. So the calories aren't actually very atrocious. So there's part of
When you factor in your body weight and the fact that you're training upwards of 3 times a day,
3 times a day.
ends up not being as ridiculous as it might seem. It just seems ridiculous to the rest of us. But when you actually kind of look at the numbers, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that's feasible.
Yep. Number 3, I would really like your perspectives on this thing I have been thinking about for a while. I'm thinking of becoming enhanced in 3 or 4 years due to 2 things: physique and food. Like anyone wanting to supplement,
the best I could think of.
Jeez. Like anyone wanting to supplement, I cannot become as big as I want to be if I remain natural. And the second thing is I cannot eat as much food as I want to. Now, before you say anything, there's a reason I said I'm waiting a couple of years. I figure after 6 years or so of 8 to 9 hours of sleep a day, proper eating, proper training, I should have an idea of how I can realistically look naturally. The other is to see if my food consumption is good enough to satisfy me. I've always eaten a lot. Before lifting, that meant I was fat. Now I'm not, but the appetite is still there.
Sure.
My previous surplus periods have been eating around 420, 470 grams of carbs, about 80 grams of fat, and 190 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs from fruit, about 1250 to 1500 grams of fruit, 100 grams of carbs from oats, 100 grams of carbs from cereal post-workout, 30 grams of carbs from veggies, about 500 grams of veggies, and 50 grams to account for the other food. If I want milk, for example, I use tortillas to make some high-protein burritos, etc. Protein is lean minced steak or chicken. Fats mostly come from meat, oil, and eggs. Essentially, what I'm saying is that I like to think I eat clean, yet I never feel very full or stuffed. If I try to have fun food like pizza or burgers, or even something reasonable like 800 calories leaves me a bit hungry afterwards because I had to cut other food out. Sure, if I ate 2 kilograms of broccoli a day, I would be fuller, or if I had carbs, it'd be all dry rice.
Grams of broccoli a day.
But I want to be able to eat quote unquote proper food and enjoy some junk food once in a while too. I find it frustrating that even when gaining weight, if I want to feel full, I can only eat healthy food. I want things like pasta and cookies too. I've tried eating at a higher surplus. I just got fatter. I figured that besides the physique aspect, the increased calories could improve my quality of life as well. I mean, what can I realistically burn more than I do now naturally? Maybe 300 calories due to increased muscle mass and load on the bar. I'm sorry if it seems very woe is me. It's definitely a first world problem to complain about eating 320 calories is not enough. It just sucks. I figured that becoming enhanced would allow me to both look more like I want to and eat more food. What are your perspectives? My immediate perspective is that it won't allow you to eat more food and be satisfied because anabolics almost everywhere, especially the injectable ones, make you hungrier. They make you hungry in a very disturbing, anxiety-driven sort of way where even when you're full, you don't feel full. It helps a lot of people eat a lot, but it makes you fucking miserable. So it's a bad idea to become enhanced from that perspective. What I would rather recommend, now if you want to be more jacked, I would say you should train at least 10 years naturally. So 6 years is a bit quick. So that's my perspective on that. I will say if you really want to eat a lot of food, I would take up an additional sport integrated into your total MRV that is endurance based. You will never be able to eat enough food and you will get sick and tired of eating. If you take up cycling, you can still have a super fucking jacked upper body and pretty fucking jacked legs too. And you will burn so many goddamn calories on that fucking bike that you will be able to eat a fuckload and still barely be able to hang on to your body weight. Or in your case, because you're a super hungry kind of person, you could at the very least just fucking be perfectly satisfied with all the food you eat. So that would be my recommendation. Anabolics would just make you hungrier.
That's good. I don't know what the legal status is on this, but I would, if you have access to hunger suppressing drugs, I think that might even be a good option. I don't know if
something to talk to a doctor about for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's something that is illegal or whatever, or if it's prescription.
It's usually legal with a doctor's prescription. The kinds of drugs available in various countries depend on the regulatory agency, so on and so forth. But anti-obesity drugs work pretty fucking well to make you not want to eat. So
yeah, so I would
nothing you do in the black market because that shit will fucking drop you. Talk to your doctor.
Yeah, so I would look into that. And then, as Mike said, like it's hard to top like increasing activity. I mean, like if you like to eat, or if you always if you're compelled to eat, I think is maybe a better way of saying it. Just do more stuff. And that's the approach that I've been using lately for myself, not because I have the same problem as you, just because I enjoy eating and it just makes me feel good. So I've been picking up more hours, hiking, running, kickboxing, jumping rope, all those things, and I get to eat a lot more, and it's great. So same idea.
And it's very healthy, much healthier than taking drugs. Huh?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, rich piano lifestyle. Eat a lot of food, and then you die real soon.
Oh, God.
All right. Ryan Stone, our last question asker for the day.
I think we got another one. Just popped. Okay. Sorry.
Let me. I'll refresh in a sec.
Just didn't want soul crushing later.
No worries. If a sedentary beginner, 18% body fat, would like to eventually gain around 10 pounds of muscle and get to 10% body fat, what would be the best general structure for that? In terms of diet periodization phases and phase lengths, on Facebook, Dr. Mike mentioned beginning with a 6-month maintenance phase. Could you provide some detail why? Also, do you have any tips for success for someone's first cut using the RP app? I do have that second question answered for you. Keep things simple. Eat the recommended app foods. Don't go off plan too much. Don't try to IFWAM the shit. Eat the app foods. Do your check-ins. Take the advice the app gives you. And also don't put in crazy aggressive fat loss goals because it'll be really crazy and aggressive and you'll probably burn out. So aim for the moderate. As far as the long-term periodization structure, so I would say for 6 months to a year, just try to improve your nutritional stuff. And if you do the app, you'll definitely do that. And just train really hard with weights and try to increase your physical activity a little bit and just being more active. Also lift weights. So at first, train very easy. In the second month, train a little harder. Third month, a little harder, so on and so forth. Properly train. After a year of proper training, you'll probably be more like 13 to 15% body fat. And you'll probably have gained like 10 pounds of muscle. And then what you do is 1 10-week diet phase, and voila, you're at 10%.
Easy peasy.
So,
living greasy.
All right, let me refresh here. Mariana Perdomo. Kyle here again. Whenever I begin a cutting phase, my bowel regularity immediately changes. I imagine this could be there's simply less food moving through my gut. Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like my veggie intake is still pretty good. Yep. Doesn't make up for all the other food you're not eating. During the cut, I generally use the bathroom every 48 to 56 hours versus a rigid 24-hour scheduling during maintenance. I feel like this is a Gabrielle Fondaro question.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is that I have bloating and abdominal pain. It's mild but annoying. The quality of my product doesn't really change. It just seems like take a long time for me to arrive. I've had some success with fiber supplements, particularly bulk forming laxatives such as psyllium husk and calcium polycarbophyll. What can you guys tell me about various types of fiber? Not much. Am I on the right track with what I'm taking? What is safe to take during cutting cycles? I can tolerate just about anything except chicory root. Thanks. Yeah, I think the shit you're doing is just fine. There's psyllium husk and shit like that. Eat more fiber, double your veggie intake, and cut your intake of grains by half, or whatever, carb-wise. And you'll more veggies, more fruits, less grains, less processed stuff, and you'll poop better. Add in addition to that your fiber supplement. Another thing I can recommend is things like, I don't know if you have this where you are, but like Halo Top and Enlightened ice cream, protein bars with what's his name's in them, sugar alcohols. You want to shit, you'll shit. Have a couple Quest bars every day and you'll fucking be well on your way. So
Yeah, so we get this with our clients a lot, where they'll be like, "I'm constipated all the time," and you're like, "Well, are you actually constipated, or are you just pooping less?" And they go, "Oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm just pooping less." So yeah, you're eating less, you're gonna poop less. That's fine. The cramping and stuff, I'm not sure. I would try
It
all
may
the
be good to chat with a doctor about that.
yeah. Sometimes like hydration tends to be a thing when people aren't pooping as much as they want to go poop. You can also try like a stool softener if you don't want to go on like a full on laxative. The stool softener is a little bit easier to put down. And other than that, yeah, I'm not really sure about those other fiber supplements. I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Boom. He said, P.S. Battlestar Galactica didn't work out. Mariana falls asleep every
Oh,
time.
come on.
Couldn't get through episode 3. I'm not sure how she can even sleep at night, not know who all of the
Right?
Cylons are. Well, man, my wife and I have watched numerous shows where we both love them, and sometimes I'm like, Crystal, you'll love this, and she just looks at it and then falls asleep 1 second later, and I'm like, well, lead a horse to water. And he says, we are in Connecticut, and I love Enlightened. Well, fuck, enlighten it away, and you will have, all that stuff is going to be really
It's good.
pertinent to
So
pooping.
Had one last one here. Not a question,
Yeah.
Charles Fernandez. We just wanted to say I love all the content you guys put out there.
Fuck you, Charles. How dare you? Oh, wait, he's complimenting us. Thanks, buddy. Just kidding.
Ooh, all right, folks.
So
I think we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. Another great week of questions. Mike, what are we doing next week? Are we on for normal?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think I got shit going on.
Yep. And then the week after that, I will be a European person because my wife and I are going to vacation in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Before any of you motherfuckers ask, I will be nowhere, and no, you cannot meet me, and I won't meet you because I'm on fucking vacation with my wife. I've already had people like, oh, you're going to be in Europe. I'm not going to be in Europe. I'm going to be a ghost, a myth.
Hello, European person. Okay, great. Well, guys,
but I might be able to do a webinar anyway, James, because depending on what time it is. But in any case, we'll
so we'll say next week normal. The week after next week, be prepared for a modified schedule. Got some advance notice here. Thanks to everybody who came to London. We had a great time. Had a great meeting all you guys. It was really fun. Thanks to you RP Plus regulars, always asking great questions, very thought provoking. And I'm glad Jan Fries didn't ask a 9-page question this week. He was asking us 9.
Maybe next week.
So yeah, that's it for now. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.